Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to check the video out. And today I was just wanting to get out here in the boat a little bit and try to get some organization done. We've been down at Smith Lake at the Bassmaster Open all week long. The boat's sort of a mess a little bit. And gonna get ready for the Grand Lake Bassmaster Open in about a week down at Grand. And today I wanted to take a few minutes and go over some of the top lures, top techniques at Smith Lake that might help you guys in some of your fall fishing moving down the road. So I'm going to go over the baits that was productive down there, the techniques, and see what you guys think about that. Real quick, I'm going to be talking about baits, and all these baits that I'm talking about, if you guys are interested in any of them, you can get them, you can order them online, or you can pick them up in person at the Bait Works tackle store in Springfield, Missouri. I'll include the link in the description. And if you order through those, that link that I put in there, it's a great way to support the channel here, what I'm doing, if you like what I'm doing. So anyway, one quick thing I want to go over before I get into the video. I did a video yesterday on a video that Jim Moyna had done on YouTube talking about how bad the payouts were in tournament fishing. And I got a ton of comments on that video, and a lot of them, for whatever reason, they twisted around into some political commentary, which that's not what that video was intended to do. Guys, I want to say one thing. I don't talk about politics or religion on this channel. That never leads good for anywhere. I leave them out completely. So if you drop comments that turn a topic political, they'll be removed from the comment section. They're just, you know, there's no need for that, because I'm here to talk about hardcore bass fishing and things concerned in the industry. The only thing I do talk about that could be construed a little bit political is environmental issues when it comes to legislation. And I don't consider that political. I consider that necessary, because I'm pretty fond of breathing and drinking clean water, and I think everybody else is too. So anyway, let's please leave the political comments out of there. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what happened here. I haven't even had a chance to go over how to fish the guys that didn't finish high in the tournament, caught them at Smith Lake. What I wanted to show you what I was using, what worked for me, and what didn't work for me. The first day of the tournament down there, or in practice, I struggled. I had really tough practice. I caught a few the last day of the tournament, and the last day of practice. And the last day of practice, I wound up catching them, finding them on this Mega Bass Dog X topwater, and also just the old Zoom fluke, super fluke. Basically just running back of pockets, points, that type of stuff, early under low light conditions. Those were working. We had quite a bit of cloud and rain, so those baits were producing pretty good for me, you know, under those low light conditions. The first day of the tournament, I did decent. I caught a little over 7 pounds, and I was like 1.5 pounds out of the money, but I lost 3 fish, my 5th fish, 3 times. I only had 4 fish that would have given me over 10 pounds. So that would have been like a top 15, top 20 the first day. So it's worth talking about the techniques that I was using here. That first day of the tournament, we had heavy overcast and we had fog. So I caught 2 on the Mega Bass Dog X topwater, and both of these fish came sort of in the back of a flat cove. I think there were some fish up there feeding on perch or something. Low light conditions, wound up catching 2 on that. The third fish I caught was on the Zoom Super Fluke on a blowdown tree, sort of about halfway back in the cove. The fish just came out of there and got it. And the biggest fish I caught that day, I had threw the Dog X next to a boat dock, and I was working the Dog X out from the boat dock, and a nice one, about a 2.5 pounder, 2 3/4 pounder, probably 2 3/4 pounder. It followed the bait out. It just followed it right behind the lure and just sort of swum off like that. So I backed off about 50 feet away from the dock, and I just sat there for probably, you know, 3 or 4 minutes and just let everything settle down. And I went back in there and I took the Zoom trick worm on a shaky head, just a Zoom green pumpkin trick worm on an 1/8 ounce shaky head, and I threw it up next to that dock. And that dock is a pretty shallow dock. The outside of it was in about 4 or 5 foot of water, and threw it up there right where that fish was and caught that fish, that 2 3/4 pounder on the shaky head. So that gave me 4, and I still had a couple hours left to fish. So the next 3 bites I got, I was fishing back in this cove and I threw up against the boat ramp and I hooked with the shaky head, and I hooked a good one. I could feel it was a good one. It was pulling really hard, and the thing just pulled off. I mean, it was like, are you kidding me? Excuse me. And so I'm sure that was a keeper there. I actually didn't see that fish. The next bite that I got, there was this big lay down tree about halfway back in this cove, and I pitched, actually I had a jig at the time. I pitched a jig back in there, and I got a bite, and I set the hook, and Elliot's squeaking the boat there. And anyway, I pitched this jig back into this tree, and Elliot, stop doing it. And Elliot's over there trying to move the boat, vibrate a little bit. So anyway, pitched this jig back in this tree here, got a bite, set the hook, and I'm reeling the fish in, and it's about a 12-inch spotted bass on a jig, and there's about a 3-pounder chasing this spotted bass right behind it. So I unhooked the spotted bass, I reached down, picked up the shaky head again, and I pitched the shaky head into that lay down, worked it, nothing, and I reeled it in, and I got it about 5 foot from the boat, and this 3-pounder comes up and grabs the shaky head, moves off with it. I set the hook, and I get back my worm cut in half right behind the hook. The fish had gotten the worm right behind the hook, and I missed that fish. So it's like, oh man, if I had just waited a couple more seconds, I'd have caught that fish. And then the last one that I had on, again, there was like a shade line towards in the back of the cove. I threw the dog X back in there, had a nice keeper blow up on it. I had it hooked for just a couple seconds, and it came off. So that was my first day. And I sort of felt, and I was fishing this one section of the area that had a good mix of like main and secondary points, coves, docks. There was a lot of cover in there. And even though it was hard to get a bite, I knew that I had a decent day overall, and I could have had a really good day if I just, fished really clean that day. So I told myself, it's like I knew it was going to be tough on day 2. I knew we were going to lose the clouds. I knew we were going to have any wind, and there's no doubt the fishing was going to get tougher. So I just said, okay, if I go back into that area, take what I learned today, I think I can probably maybe scrape out a limit, especially if I, finesse fish a little bit more, not throw the top water quite as much, and go with the finesse worm and that type of stuff. So went out that next morning. We had another fog delay. I spent the first couple hours with the dog X, nothing, not a bite on it. And it was really slick, really calm, really quiet. It's like there wasn't a peep of anything. There wasn't a breath of wind, wasn't any clouds, and I could just tell they weren't going to hit it. So at that point I said, and I just got to pick up a shaky head and just try to get 5 bites. And I wound up, I put the trick worm back on. Right off the bat, I lost the keeper, again on a boat ramp, thrown up on a boat ramp. I did a video on boat ramps, actually. You guys may have seen it. They're really good. And as it wound up, I fished the shaky head for the next 3 or 4 hours without a dang bite. I mixed it up a little bit with the fluke and the top water and that type of stuff, and just nothing. So the next day, Elliot, stop. So nothing on that. So again, we had about 2 hours left in the day, and I just felt that, like, okay, if I'm going to make a comeback, there's no way that I'm just going to throw this shaky head and make a comeback and get a check or make the cut. So I decided to make a gamble a little bit, and I went to the big Mega Bass Ice Slide 185 glide bait. And I talked to Oliver Nye. He had been getting some big ones to follow this thing the day before. So I just started throwing it the rest of the day, hoping to get 2 or 3 of those just freak big bites, and it just never happened. It turned out I didn't catch one that last day. So that's basically, how I was fishing on the thing. you know, like I said, I haven't even looked to see how a lot of the fish were caught on there. I'm just assuming a lot of them were, you know, deeper. I'm sure there was a shallow mix in there too, but the thing about shallow water fishing, guys, is like it's a fine line between catching them or not, because a lot of the times it's just timing, it's specific little targets and area, it's bait selection, it's color, and sometimes you hit on those things and sometimes you don't. And this particular tournament, I didn't hit on it. I probably would have fished a little bit different if I'd have caught that 30-pounder the first day and had that been in the top 15 or the top 20. I'd have probably approached it a little bit different than I did the second day. But it's easy to look back and say what you'd have done different after you've already done it. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate y'all sticking around for the video. The videos all week, the practice, tournament. I hope you learned something from the mistakes I made or some of the fish I caught that helps you out down the road. And I'll do the same at Grand Lake in about a week. I'll give you guys the pre-tournament stuff, practice, tournament stuff, and see if you can do a little better than we did this week. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. We'll see y'all later.